Have you ever heard of a place so terrifying that it was quietly erased from maps, not because it never existed, but because no one could explain what happened there? Deep within the forests of the Appalachian Mountains, hidden far beyond abandoned logging roads and forgotten hiking trails, there are whispers of an ancient American settlement that locals refuse to name after sunset. According to old records, the village stood there for more than 200 years. Yet today, not a single official document can fully explain why every family vanished without a trace. Stranger still, every group that later attempted to investigate reported hearing voices calling their names from empty houses, and some of those investigators were never seen again. Was it simply another forgotten ghost story? A government cover-up? Or did something awaken beneath that isolated valley long before the first settlers ever arrived? Tonight, we're uncovering one of the darkest mysteries ever whispered about in rural America. Every detail you're about to hear has been pieced together from forgotten journals, abandoned newspaper archives, and the testimonies of the few people who claimed they escaped alive. Watch until the very end, because the final discovery inside the oldest building in the village completely changed everything investigators believed about this place. And after hearing it, you may never look at an abandoned town the same way again. The story begins nearly 3 centuries ago, long before modern highways carved through the Appalachian Mountains. In the early 1700s, a small settlement was established deep inside an isolated valley in what is now believed to be western Virginia. The village was known as Ash Hollow, a peaceful farming community surrounded by dense forests, rocky hills, and crystal-clear streams. Historical records described it as unusually prosperous despite its remote location. Crops grew faster there than in neighboring settlements. Livestock rarely became sick. Travelers often wrote that the valley felt strangely calm, almost untouched by the outside world. The settlers believed they had discovered paradise, but they weren't first to live there. Several handwritten journals recovered decades later mentioned that local Native American tribes refused to enter the valley. Hunters would walk miles around it rather than cross its borders. When questioned, tribal elders reportedly answered with the same warning: "The land remembers." No one understood what those words meant. The settlers dismissed the warning as superstition. Years passed peacefully until the first unexplained disappearance. It happened during the autumn harvest of 1738. A teenage boy named Thomas Avery wandered into the nearby woods searching for a missing horse. He never returned. Search parties combed every trail for nearly a week before finding his footprints leading toward a rocky cliff. The footprints suddenly stopped in the middle of soft mud, as though Thomas had simply vanished into thin air. There were no signs of struggle, no animal tracks, no blood. Nothing. Months later, another villager disappeared. Then another. At first, people blamed wolves, harsh terrain, or accidents, but those explanations slowly fell apart because each victim disappeared under impossible circumstances. One woman vanished while hanging laundry behind her house in broad daylight. A blacksmith disappeared with several witnesses standing only a few yards away. According to those witnesses, he walked into the village smokehouse and never came back out. When they opened the door only seconds later, the building was completely empty. Fear quietly settled over Ash Hollow. Families stopped traveling alone. Children were forbidden from entering the woods. Church services became longer. The village minister insisted that faith alone could protect them. Then the dreams began.
Nearly every resident claimed they were having identical nightmares. They described hearing footsteps outside their homes every night, soft knocking on the windows, voices calling their names using the voices of dead relatives. Some villagers reported waking up with muddy footprints leading across their bedroom floors, despite every door remaining locked. Others claimed they saw shadow-like figures standing among the trees at sunrise before instantly disappearing whenever approached. Still, no one left, because every attempt to leave ended the same way. According to surviving journal entries, families trying to move away somehow became hopelessly lost despite following familiar roads. Hours later, they would unknowingly arrive back at Ash Hollow from the opposite direction. The valley seemed impossible to escape. People began believing they were trapped. By the winter of 1742, paranoia consumed the village. Neighbors accused neighbors. Church attendance became mandatory. Anyone questioning the strange events was viewed with suspicion. One elderly woman named Eleanor Briggs claimed she had discovered the truth after translating strange carvings found beneath the old church foundation. She warned the entire village during Sunday service. This valley was never empty. Something beneath us has been listening since before the first tree grew. Before she could explain further, witnesses claimed Eleanor suddenly collapsed. She died before sunset. The following morning, every carving she described had disappeared, or perhaps someone had removed them. No one could tell. For years afterwards, Ash Hollow slowly faded from regional maps. Fewer traders visited. Nearby settlements avoided the valley completely. Letters sent from the village became increasingly disturbing. One letter, preserved inside an old county archive, contained only a single sentence. "Whatever answers us from the forest is learning our voices." The letter ended there. No signature, no explanation. And then, the letters stopped altogether. By the spring of 1751, Ash Hollow had gone completely silent. Supply wagons arrived to find livestock wandering freely through empty streets. Dinner tables remained fully set. Fresh bread sat untouched inside kitchens. Fireplaces still contained warm ashes, but not a single resident could be found anywhere. It was as if an entire village had stood up at the exact same moment and walked away together into the endless forest. No bodies were ever discovered, no mass graves, no disease, no signs, only silence. For decades afterwards, government surveyors quietly marked the valley as abandoned territory. New settlements were built many miles away. Eventually, the story faded into local folklore. Most people assumed Ash Hollow had simply become another exaggerated ghost tale, until nearly 300 years later, when a small documentary crew received an anonymous package containing a weathered leather journal, a faded hand-drawn map, and a note written in trembling handwriting. It contained only 9 words. "They never left. They are still waiting beneath the church." None of the investigators realized accepting the assignment would place them on the exact same path as everyone who had disappeared before them.
The journal contained no author's name. Its leather cover was cracked with age, and nearly every page was stained by moisture, ash, or something much darker that investigators could no longer identify. Yet the handwriting remained surprisingly clear. The final entries were unlike anything the documentary crew had ever read. "Do not trust the silence. They imitate those you love. If the church bell rings after midnight, run." Those warnings became the foundation of the expedition. In the autumn of 2019, a four-person documentary team left Richmond, Virginia, hoping to uncover the truth behind one of America's forgotten legends. The crew consisted of experienced filmmaker Daniel Mercer, historian Emily Brooks, sound engineer Ryan Foster, and drone operator Lucas Reed. Each had spent years documenting abandoned places across the United States, from forgotten mining towns in Colorado to deserted hospitals in Pennsylvania. None of them believed in ghosts. They believed in evidence. After nearly 11 hours of driving, they reached an isolated forest road that no longer appeared on modern GPS maps. The old hand-drawn map from the journal pointed toward a narrow trail hidden behind enormous oak trees. Thick vines covered what looked like the remains of a wooden entrance sign. Most of the letters had rotted away. Only two words remained visible: hollow. The air changed almost immediately. Even though it was late October, the forest became unnaturally quiet. There were no birds, no insects, no distant sounds of wildlife. Only the crunch of leaves beneath their boots. Ryan noticed something strange first. His audio recorder, which had been working perfectly all morning, suddenly produced an overwhelming layer of static. Every few seconds, beneath the interference, another sound appeared. It almost resembled whispering. Emily assumed it was radio interference. Daniel wasn't convinced. They continued walking. After another mile, the forest suddenly opened into a wide valley. There it was, Ash Hollow. More than 40 weathered wooden homes still stood exactly where they had been built centuries earlier. Their windows were broken, roofs had collapsed, weeds pushed through every road. Yet something immediately felt wrong. There was almost no natural decay. Furniture still sat inside several houses. Iron cooking pots remained hanging over ancient fireplaces. One rocking chair gently moved back and forth despite there being no wind. Lucas laughed nervously. Someone's probably been here recently. No one answered. Daniel raised his camera. This is incredible. Emily quietly interrupted him. Look at the ground. There were footprints, fresh footprints, not animal tracks, human footprints, bare feet. Hundreds of them. They covered the muddy street between the abandoned homes. But every footprint pointed toward the old church standing at the center of the village. None pointed away. Ryan attempted to compare the prints with members of the crew. They were all too small, almost child-sized. Daniel suggested they continue documenting everything before daylight disappeared. Inside the first cabin, they discovered handmade furniture coated in thick dust. Family portraits still hung on the walls. One photograph immediately caught Emily's attention. It shouldn't have existed. Photography wasn't invented until decades after Ash Hollow had supposedly vanished. Yet the faded black and white image clearly showed dozens of villagers standing in front of the church. Everyone in the photograph stared directly into the camera. None of them smiled. Even stranger, every face appeared slightly blurred except one elderly woman standing in the center. She looked exactly like Eleanor Briggs, the woman who supposedly died years before the village disappeared. Lucas frowned. How is that even possible? No one could answer. As evening approached, temperatures dropped rapidly. Fog rolled into the valley so quickly that several houses disappeared behind thick gray mist within minutes. Daniel decided to set up camp inside the old schoolhouse rather than hike back through unfamiliar terrain after dark. It seemed like the safest option. It wasn't.
At exactly 8:47 p.m., Ryan removed his headphones after hearing something impossible. Someone was softly humming. The melody repeated every 20 seconds. It sounded close, very close. The others searched outside. Nothing. The humming continued. Ryan increased the recording volume. This time, the sound became clearer. It wasn't humming anymore. It was singing. A woman's voice. Slow, gentle, almost comforting. Emily suddenly turned pale. "I know that song." Daniel looked confused. "My grandmother used to sing it." Ryan stopped the playback. "So did mine." Silence filled the room. Each member of the crew recognized the melody, yet they had all grown up in different states. None shared the same family history. Lucas forced a smile. There has to be an explanation. Then, the church bell rang. One slow strike echoed across the valley. Everyone froze. According to the journal, the bell tower had collapsed more than 200 years ago. Daniel rushed outside with his camera. The church stood nearly 300 yards away, barely visible through heavy fog. The bell tower leaned dangerously to one side. Its roof had completely caved in. There was no bell. Yet another metallic chime echoed through the darkness. Then another. Then another. Each strike sounded closer than the last. Ryan whispered, "Tell me someone hears that." No one answered, because all 4 investigators were staring toward the church. Someone stood in the doorway, a tall figure wearing what appeared to be colonial clothing. Its face remained hidden in shadow. It didn't move. It simply watched them. Daniel zoomed in with his camera. The image blurred violently. Static filled the screen. When the picture finally stabilized, the doorway was empty. The figure had vanished. Lucas laughed again, but this time his laughter sounded forced. "We're letting this place get into our heads." Daniel agreed. They returned inside the schoolhouse and locked every door. At 11:16 p.m., Emily noticed another disturbing detail. The old classroom clock mounted above the blackboard had stopped permanently at 3:17. Every pocket watch they carried now displayed 3:17. Their phones also froze. No signal, no battery loss, just one impossible time. 3:17. Ryan checked his digital recorder. Every audio file captured that day had disappeared, except one, an audio only 17 seconds long. He pressed play. At first, nothing. Then, footsteps. Slow footsteps, circling the building. One pair, then 2, then dozens. Wood creaked beneath invisible weight. Someone or something was walking around the schoolhouse. Children began laughing outside, softly, then louder, then all at once. Lucas grabbed a flashlight and pulled back the curtain. There was nobody there. The laughter stopped instantly. Daniel whispered, "We leave before sunrise." Everyone agreed. No one slept. At exactly 3:17 a.m., 3 slow knocks echoed against the front door. Knock, knock, knock. The crew held their breath. Another 3 knocks came from the back door. Then, from every window, one after another, perfectly synchronized. No voices, no footsteps, only knocking. Emily slowly opened the journal once more. A folded page slipped onto the floor. It hadn't been there before. Across the brittle paper, written in faded ink, were 7 terrifying words. They only knock before someone opens the door. No one moved. Then, a familiar voice called from outside. "Daniel? It's Emily." Daniel looked across the room. The real Emily stood beside him. Every color drained from his face. Whatever was waiting outside.
No one touched the door. The voice outside sounded identical to Emily's. Same tone, same pace, even the same nervous hesitation between words. But the real Emily was standing only a few feet away, gripping an old wooden desk so tightly that her knuckles had turned white. The voice came again. "Daniel, please open the door. I found something." Ryan slowly raised his audio recorder. This time, the recorder captured the voice perfectly. There was no static, no distortion. Only one problem. The waveform on the screen showed 2 overlapping voices speaking at the exact same time. One belonged to Emily. The other was lower, slower, and almost impossible to hear beneath it, as though another speaker were repeating every word a fraction of a second later. No one dared answer. After several minutes, the knocking stopped. The silence that followed was somehow even worse. When dawn finally broke, the fog began lifting from the valley. The crew packed their equipment in complete silence and headed toward the old church, the same building every set of mysterious footprints seemed to lead toward. Up close, the church looked older than anything in Ash Hollow. Its stone foundation had sunk unevenly into the earth, and thick ivy covered most of the walls. The massive wooden doors hung open by rusted iron hinges. Inside, rows of broken pews stretched toward a crumbling altar. Dust covered nearly every surface, yet a narrow path through the dust led directly to the center of the sanctuary. Someone or something had walked there recently. Emily noticed faded symbols carved in several stone columns. They didn't resemble crosses or religious artwork from colonial America. Instead, they appeared to be geometric patterns arranged in repeating circles. Daniel photographed every carving. Later, experts would disagree about their origin. Some claimed they were made by early settlers. Others insisted they were far older than the village itself. Near the altar, Lucas discovered an iron ring embedded in the wooden floor. Together, they lifted it. Beneath was a narrow staircase descending into darkness. Cold air drifted upward. The smell was unmistakable. Wet stone, old wood, and something metallic. Ryan switched on a flashlight. The beam revealed a long underground passage reinforced with rough-cut stone walls. Whatever lay below had clearly been built intentionally. "This wasn't part of the original church," Emily whispered. Daniel nodded. "Let's document everything." Step by step, they descended. The tunnel eventually opened into a large underground chamber. The room contained shelves lined with weathered journals, church records, and dozens of sealed wooden boxes. It wasn't a crypt, it was an archive. Emily carefully opened the nearest journal. Most pages had been destroyed by moisture, but several entries remained readable. The earliest described unexplained sounds in the forest, strange disappearances, and growing fear among the villagers. But the later entries told a different story. The minister believed panic itself had become the village's greatest enemy. As rumors spread, ordinary events were increasingly interpreted as evidence of something supernatural. People stopped sleeping. Families distrusted one another. Isolated disappearances, possibly caused by accidents, harsh terrain, or voluntary flight, were woven into a single terrifying narrative. One sentence stood out.
When fear becomes stronger than reason, every shadow acquires a face. Daniel looked around the chamber. If this is authentic, the story everyone knows may be incomplete. Lucas called from the far corner, "You need to see this." Against the back wall stood a large hand-drawn map of Ash Hollow. Dozens of homes were marked with small symbols. Several had dates written beside them. The final date matched the year the village supposedly vanished. But there was no indication that everyone had disappeared overnight. Instead, the notes suggested families had been leaving gradually for months, relocating to nearby settlements after repeated crop failures, illness, and escalating conflict within the community. If the records were genuine, the legend of an entire village vanishing in a single night was likely grown over generations until myth replaced history. Ryan frowned. So why hide all of this underground? Before anyone answered, a deep rumble echoed through the chamber. Dust drifted from the ceiling. Another rumble followed. Daniel shined his flashlight toward the far wall. A section of stone had partially collapsed, revealing a narrow cavity behind it. Inside lay dozens of personal belongings, children's toys, cooking utensils, family Bibles, handwritten letters, and clothing carefully stacked together. It looked less like a burial site and more like an emergency storage room, abandoned in haste. Emily unfolded one of the letters. Its final lines read, "If anyone finds this, remember us as people, not monsters. We were frightened. We made mistakes. The stories that survive will become larger than the truth." For several moments, no one spoke. The valley had earned a terrifying reputation over centuries, but the evidence suggested something far more complicated than a simple ghost story. Fear, isolation, harsh wilderness, and generations of rumor had transformed a struggling colonial settlement into one of America's darkest legends. As the crew prepared to leave, Daniel turned for one last look at the underground chamber. His flashlight swept across the shelves. For just an instant, he thought he saw a figure standing in the darkness beyond the archive. When he aimed the light again, there was nothing there. Perhaps it had been a trick of the shadows, perhaps exhaustion, or perhaps some mysteries remain impossible to resolve completely. Months later, the documentary aired nationwide. Historians praised its careful examination of forgotten records and challenged many long-held myths surrounding Ash Hollow. At the same time, viewers remained fascinated by the unexplained audio recordings, the identical melody recognized by every crew member, and the strange photograph whose origin could never be conclusively verified. To this day, no archaeological survey has fully excavated the valley, and debates continue over what truly happened there. Some believe Ash Hollow is simply an example of how fear can reshape history. Others argue that not every question found an answer. One lesson, however, is beyond dispute. When stories pass from one generation to the next, they often grow darker with each retelling. The greatest danger is not always what hides in the forest. It can also be the fear that grows inside the human mind when certainty disappears. And if you ever find yourself standing in a forgotten place where every sound seems just a little too quiet, remember this: curiosity uncovers history, but wisdom tells us when it's time to walk away.